Lindsay June here at LB Salon. Welcome everybody to my very first YouTube video. I'm so excited to be showing you one of my very favorite clients today. We're doing a color correction. She hasn't been into me for about a year now, so I'm so excited to be showing you guys my latest tips, tricks, how to do color corrections, blonding, color formulations, and my favorite hair care products. So let's get started. So here's my lovely client, Kayler. She's been coming to me for a couple years now. She is naturally, tilt your head down, a level 6. She's got great hair, as you can see, tons and tons of hair. But she hasn't been to me for about the past year. So we're going to be refreshing her color today. I'm going to be putting in some balayage highlights, also some teasylights and some baby lights. And also going to be actually adding in some of her natural depth back into here just to give it kind of more of a fall color, and going to just kind of liven her back up, freshen her up, and make her feel brand new again. Today, the hair care products that I'm going to be using, I'm going to be using Oligo for her lightener. I absolutely love their lightener. I think it's one of the best on the market right now. I'm going to be using their Extra Blonde and Cool Tone lightener mixed with probably 20 volume on her new growth, and maybe a couple pieces of 10 volume towards her ends to kind of pop some of that blonde. I'm also going to be using one of their low light colors to add some depth back into her hair. I'm also going to be using Olaplex as a bond builder to protect the integrity of her hair, and I will also be using Monat products to help heal and protect her hair and maintain the integrity over the next coming months. All right, now we're gonna go back into the color area and I'm gonna show you guys how I mix up my formulations. Let's go. Welcome to my color area, guys. So today for Kayler's hair, since she is pretty grown out, we're actually gonna be doing 2 different lightening formulas. I'm gonna be mixing Oligo's Extra Blonde and Cool Tone blondes, because Kayler technically is she's a pretty deep tone, so she's probably gonna lift a little brassy. So I wanna add in this Cool Tone blonde, which has a nice blue pigment to it, which will help counteract brass really well. And this Extra Blonde really has a great kick to it as far as power goes with lightener. And I always use Framar brushes. I absolutely love, love, love their brushes. I think they have a great texture to them and they allow for really even saturation. And I also use Framar foils. I absolutely love their foils, and you can just literally pull them out and tear them off. It's super convenient and saves a lot of time. So for her mid-shaft to her ends, I'm gonna be doing the same formula but with just 10 volume, because I wanna bump up her blonde in a couple pieces, but I don't wanna bump it up too much or worry about over compromising her hair. So now that I've got this mixed up, I always go through in my lighteners and I add a couple drops of Monat's Rejuvenate oil. It's just a blend of 13 different botanical oils, and I really feel that it helps to nourish the hair and moisturize it from the inside out while we are lightening her. So I always use this. This has 101 different uses for it. I use it on my skin as well, and I use it on dry hair, wet hair, use it on my pets, use it on everything. So this is a great oil, and it doesn't affect the lightener at all. So after that, I'm going to add in some lowlights on her hair just to kind of really make it more natural for her, because she's, you know, a dark blonde, light brunette. She's not too dark, but I do want to add some warmth and some depth back into her color, because we did have her all over blonde last year, but now I kind of want her to be in that kind of Bronde color zone that's very popular this season. So I'm going to be mixing up 2 of my favorite colors from Oligo's permanent color line, Colura. There's 6GK and 7GK. It's kind of a golden copper. I think that these 2 tones produce the most beautiful, rich, warm, kind of light chocolate tones. Not too coppery, but also not too dull. So I'm gonna do equal partings So it's just kind of right around her natural base level. So I'm gonna do probably an ounce of the 7 GK and an ounce of the 6 GK. So it'll be just in between a level 6 and a level 7. And then I am going to mix that with 10 volume because we just want to deposit, we don't want to lift at all. And we'll do equal partings there, so it'll be 4 ounces total. And I really love this color line. I think it really has the best standing power of any color line I've ever used. It smells great, it's PVD free, it doesn't create any sensitivities on my client's scalp. And it's actually exothermic, so it goes on warm, it doesn't go on cold, so it's really pleasant for the clients. And it doesn't smell like chemicals, it smells really great. So now that I've got all this mixed up, let's go back over to the station and get started. So I'm mixing up the 20 volume here. And as you can see, it's a nice rich blue tone. I like it to be pretty moist, not too runny, but also not too thick. Saturation is key, so I always make sure that I can get it a nice consistency to evenly saturate her hair. And then for the 10 volume, and then the 6 GK and 7 GK. I'm really excited to use these tones on her. They're my absolute favorite. All right, and then I also use, I've got my little Monat clamps here. I also use the little end here, comes off on mine, but it's a little Redken blur brush. I love this little guy. He's my little sidekick and helps me blend all of my colors perfectly. So I also sometimes use this Framar little kind of paintbrush. I love this one. I think it really helps with the balayage look to really blend and make a nice even color. So I'm gonna put my gloves on. Always gotta wear gloves. And then I'm going to section her in just about 3 sections from ear forward and then the back. So we'll probably start on the front on her first, just to make sure the front is what gets the most lift. And I know her hair is gonna take quite a while to do, so might as well do the front, which is the part that she's gonna see when we are all fresh and ready to go. So my partings are as follows. I just have her behind the ear here. Gonna clip this out of the way, and then behind the ear on the other side. All right, so to get started, I am going to be doing angled sectioning. So I'm going to start down here. Pull this up out of the way. And I'm going to start with this one by doing some teasylights. So I use my comb and I just slightly back comb. This causes the hair to be all kind of different lengths. And since it's really finely combed, when you brush it out, it really creates like a nice blend in the hair, which I really, really love. So I'm just gonna do a couple more here. Then I'm just gonna weave a couple strands. You never want your sectioning to be too thick because then you're not gonna evenly saturate the hair. So I actually will grab this piece probably and do a low light. So I'm gonna clip this one out of the way. Pull this down. And this will be her first little low light. So that when her hair is down, it'll do a nice little tuck. going through here. And make sure you press nice and firm and evenly saturate this whole area here. And I always make sure I use a warm tone when I'm filling the client's hair. If they have blonde hair and you're wanting to go a couple shades darker, you do have to fill the hair with a warm tone, otherwise it can look really muddy and ashy and the color will just fade right out. So in order to make sure that her color lasts, we use a nice golden copper color. That's going to make sure her dark stays dark for quite a while. So we're going to just go in here right where her new growth is. I'm just going to lightly start here in the midsection. Make sure this is nice and saturated. I'm going to leave this out right now, leave out her part that has already been lightened. And I'm just going to lightly feather up. I like to do here like a nice kind of angle, because whenever she curls her hair, it's gonna really leave some depth back here, but give her this nice pop of blonde right up in the front. And again, make sure you saturate the hair really, really well. And then I just kind of feather up into the little teases up there. And then I'm gonna go through on the part that's already lightened and just go through with 10 volume. This will just give it a little extra pop. Go through here, hold and seal. And then on to the next section. What's great about Kayla's hair is actually grown out pretty well. Considering she is all blonde at the bottom, there's no harsh lines because from her balayage before, I'd blended it out really well. So that's gonna definitely help us when it comes to giving her some new fresh blonde. We don't have like a harsh line that we're having to blend out. So I'm gonna do this section right below here. I like to do darker more towards the bottom because I feel like that's just kind of naturally how hair is in the light with the sunlight. It's always kind of, it brightens the top and you're always deeper underneath, and it always gives more of a look of depth. So I'm gonna go back through here with the low light. And now with this one, I'm going to do a baby light. And a baby light is just a really finely weaved highlight. It ensures like a really natural grow out because it's not too stripy, not too thick. As you can kind of see, you can see just how thin that is. So it'll just give her subtle dimension without being too bold and too bright. And with this one, I'm gonna actually bring this one up a little bit higher, since it is finely weaved, so that we can make sure that even though we're going to keep her nice and rooty, we want it to be a dimensional root. We don't want it to be kind of all one tone like she is right now. So again, when I'm going towards the face, I always want the blonde to be highest up at the face, and I'm just going to lightly feather this up. Also make sure that it is fully saturated. I like to kind of go through and crisscross to make sure that it's getting all the way through to the back. And now the third technique that I'm going to use is just kind of a simple balayage technique where I don't do any weaving, I don't do any teasing, I'm just feathering on the top layer of her hair. So I grab a pretty decently thick section, it's about a ½ an inch, and I'm just going to go through here and just paint on the outer edge here. I always make sure I'm painting on the side of the brush as opposed to the tip. and I just glide it on here. And you never want to push too hard. You want it to be a nice, soft, sweeping motion. Otherwise, you're going to push that lightener through to the other side of the hair. And as you can see, when I'm lightening, the lightener is not going through to the back at all. So that's going to make sure that it creates that nice depth through the bottom. And this is where I like to go in with my little red Kimpler brush and just kind of blur. And as you can see, I'm kind of doing a V pattern here. This just gives her that nice pop, but also creates kind of a shadow through here as well. And I like to make sure that this is, nicely saturated, but not too, since I'm not using like a clay lightener on this because I want that extra lift, I'm not going to saturate it too thick just because it is a little looser of a lightener compared to clay because I don't want it to bleed through. As you can see, still there's no lightener underneath. And then I'll do that 10 volume right here on top. And then I just go one right over the other. And then I'm just going to repeat those all the way up, alternating highs and lows, teasylights and balayage. Kayler has a really awesome kind of side part over here, and she always has tons of volume in her hair, so I want to make sure I give her a really good money piece through here. You always want to make sure when you're doing like a nice rooty blonde, make sure you give them that pop of blonde right in the front of their face, so even if the blonde is really muted at the top, they still feel like they have that nice pop of blonde right in the front. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through and lightly tease against her hair here. And then I'm going to go in with the 20 volume and just lightly paint into here. And it doesn't matter if it gets all the way to the root. You don't want it really to get all the way to the root, just a little outside the root. And then I always go through and make sure it's nice and saturated through. And then her ends are already blonde, so I'm just going to leave those out. Then I'm just going to kind of go back in here and just kind of smudge that up. Then grab a foil here and just kind of incubate this in the foil and make sure it's nice and saturated again. Just saturate that, clip it out of the way. And then we're going to do the same with this side right here. So I'm just going to go through, lightly tease, then go through and paint on here. And make sure that's saturated through. And if you kind of like go against the hair, it kind of creates a smudge, so then it's nice and blended. And I want to make sure that on this other under part here that it's not a harsh line, so I go through and just brush against the hair. And brush up here. And then incubate it and another foil. And again, make sure it's nice and saturated. And I'll go through with 10 volume right on these ends. And now her front is done and we're ready to move on to the back. Okay, so I'm gonna be using the same techniques that I used on the sides for her, but I wanted to show you guys kind of how I angle my partings when I go through. So obviously underneath, I'm gonna refresh her blonde because it's pretty grown out, but I am gonna keep her mostly darker under here so that when she pulls her hair forward, all that depth comes forward and there's that depth behind her ears. So I like to do kind of angled, almost like an angled brick pattern. So I'm gonna start horizontal here underneath, and then I'm gonna go through and I'm going to angle on both sides. So we'll have an angle here and an angle there. Go through, do highlights and lowlights on both of these spots. Then I go back through and do another horizontal. I repeat this patterning. If you can see, it kind of creates like a triangle sectioning for each section. And I really like that because I think that it grows out the most natural when you do it that way. So that's how I'm gonna be kind of doing angle, angle, horizontal, angle, angle, horizontal, all the way up to the top. And then I'll also be creating some kind of triangle formations up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and then I will show you guys some details when we get up towards the top. So now that I've gotten kind of to the top of her hair, I am going to do more tightly bound highlights. Underneath here, I did a little more depth and kept a lot more of her natural. But now I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna do a baby light highlight on top of this. But here I'm going through and I'm just gonna paint some V's and W's. So on this one, I'm just gonna do a V. And as you can see here, I just kind of go in and literally create a V pattern. This will ensure nice pops of highlights throughout, but also create that nice shadow throughout here. And it ensures a really, really, really seamless grow out. And again, I'm just painting on the top of the hair. I'm not painting underneath at all. So all of this underneath is still gonna stay nice and dark and create lots of depth throughout the hair. And then using my Redken blur brush, just going in and blending, making sure it's saturated nice and evenly. And then we'll incubate this in a foil. And then I'm gonna be using 20 volume all the way through here instead of the 10 volume, just because I am just saturating it on top and I want these to be nice and blonde. I want this to go up at least 2 levels to a nice level 9, because she's right at like a 7 or 8 at the bottom here. And she's more like she's at an 8. I want to get her to a 9. Solid level 9. And then we're gonna put a baby light. I already finely weaved. You can see how much shows through here. This will ensure just like a nice subtle little pop of highlight. And again, I just feather up so that there's no solid line as you're going up. And then I'm just gonna continue this pattern all the way up to the top of the head. And then we will let her process for about 30 to 40 minutes. Okay, now that she's been processing for about 30-40 minutes, I already rinsed out some of her highlights up here in the front because they've been sitting longer. You can see how blonde they've gotten. So now we're just gonna go through, I'm gonna remove all these foils. I'm gonna give her an Olaplex #2 treatment. Let this sit for about 10 minutes. This will help refortify her hair since all those bonds in her hair have just been exploded by all the lightener. So we're gonna let that sit, and then I'm going to go ahead and formulate her toning gloss. We're gonna smudge her roots, give her a nice dimensional root, keep her a little deeper up top, and then fade it into some nice dimensional blonde and brunette colors. And we will do that with Redken Shades EQ. So you can see this is just about ready to rinse, and we will rinse this out and then smudge her and tone, and then she'll be ready to style. So what I'm going to be doing first on Kayler for her zone 1, for her smudged root, I'm going to mix 3 different colors. I'm going to do a 6 natural ash, a 6 titanium, and a 5 neutral. This will ensure that her foil lines are smudged out nice and smoothly, and will bring in her natural color up at top so she'll have minimal blowout. Next, for zone 2, this is kind of my transition color where I transition from the base to the ends. So I'm going to be doing an 8 neutral, an 8 violet, and an 8 natural ash. This will kind of counteract any brassy tones that she has and really create a really seamless blend from her roots to her ends. And then last but not least, the perfect blonde formula. I'm going to be doing a 9 natural ash, a 9 violet, a 9 pearl, and a dash of 9 gold. This will give her that perfect kind of silvery, milky tones for her blonde, make them nice and neutral, but still give a little pop of warmth so that they're not too silvery to where they look dull. These tones are definitely going to help counteract any yellow that she has in her hair, because we kind of lifted her to like a banana yellow color. So we're going to neutralize those with the color wheel and make her a beautiful, nice blonde. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys what we've got going on so far. We're about to mix up her toner, but I wanted to show you guys before the toner just how pretty and dimensional it already is with those low lights that I put in there, and just how well this is going to blend. I'm going to spray some of this Monat detangler. It's from their junior line, but I absolutely love it. I use it on all of my clients. I swear by it. It smells like apples and pears, and it's tear-free. It's great for kids, but I use it on all of my adult clients because they love it, and they go and they buy it because it makes your hair brush through so well. So what I'm really looking forward to is bringing back some of this depth down through here, making her nice and rooty, because Kayler likes it very, very low maintenance. So we're going to make this one of the most low maintenance colors she's ever had. So I'm going to start by using my zone 1 colors that I mixed. I'm going to start these right here at the base. Go underneath, make sure all this blonde is blended. Then I'm going to go through, let me bring that down a little more. Then I'm going to go through with my zone 2 color. Just use that right in the transition area. And then go through with my zone 3 color. She doesn't have a lot of blonde down here, but I could see those little parts peeking through. So we want to go ahead and saturate those. And then I always go through with my Wow comb. I absolutely love this comb. And I just comb it through. As you can see, there's this little line right here. I'm just going to go through and smudge that down, blending her base into that line. That's what I love about doing root smudging these days, is that when you're foiling, you don't have to be as precise. So you can see here where I already left her pretty rooty, but I don't want that kind of harsh line from this foil. So that's where I'll go in with this 5N and smudge down past that line. That's going to ensure that her roots are nice and smoky instead of any harsh lines coming through. And I kind of feather it down, so in some spots I take it lower than the others. That'll ensure that it's nice and feathered and does not look too stripy or too consistent, because we want it to look nice and natural and dimensional. And then I can see on some of these spots where it didn't lift as bright, I'm gonna bring down that 8 violet and 8 natural ash, just because she is right at about a level 8 here. And then at her ends down here, where she's a level 9, that's where I'll smudge this violet and natural ash mixture. And then I'll just go through the entire head, mixing these three formulas together. And then we will let this process for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we will rinse her, give her a nice trim, and blow dry and style her. So I'm gonna wash her with my favorite hair care line, which is Monat. I use about a quarter size. I use just about a quarter size in her hair. Lather it up in my hands really, really well. And just focus it on her scalp and then run it through the ends. What I love about this hair care line is it's naturally based. It's all plant-based, free of harsh toxins, and it improves the texture of the hair dramatically. I love what it does to my client's hair. All right, and then I'm gonna use the Smoothing Deep Conditioner. This is my absolute favorite conditioner. Helps fight frizz and nourishes the hair from the inside out. Before I give her a quick trim, I wanted to walk you guys through what products I like to use. Of course, you guys will learn to know that I love Monat, and I use all Monat exclusive in my salon. I don't use anything besides Monat products. I truly think they're the best. So since we did a very heavy color correction on her and lightened a lot of her hair, I'm gonna go through and use Monat's Rejuva Beads. I absolutely love this product. It's magnetically charged to help seal in your split ends. So I'm gonna use about 5 pumps on her since she's got a lot of hair. I'm gonna emulsify it in my hands really, really, really well. Their products are really concentrated, so it's always best that you spread them evenly throughout the hair. And within 60 seconds, this will cause her split ends to literally cling together like magnets. I've seen it on a microscope. It is literally magic. This is the first of its kind. I can already feel her split ends literally coming together in my hands. Your ends are getting so smooth, I can feel it. So then I go through and comb this through, and I always love to use a wet brush. It's the most gentle on the hair. Then after this, I will go through and use our blowout cream. It's a nice heat protectant. I use just about that much on her hair. She's got a lot of it, so I can use a decent amount on her hair, but their products are really concentrated, so a little bit goes a long way. But I love this heat protectant. It makes the hair super soft, super shiny, and gives you a non-silicone, naturally based heat protectant. And it smells really good. What do you think?
love it.
You like it?
Wow.
Super icy.
I've never had this color.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
And look at that. I love that dark underneath.
I love it so much.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
Alright guys, that about wraps it up. You can turn around now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys sticking through the video. I can't wait to bring you guys some more content on blonding and more color corrections. Thank you so much to Monat Official for giving us this amazing head of hair here. Your products are truly amazing. And thanks to Oligo and Redken for your amazing, amazing color lines. So stay tuned. We will be doing way more videos in the next coming months, and thanks again for watching.